Every species wanted to enslave Earth. Now they're on their knees part. 5. The sky turned red the day the insectoid armada arrived. Thousands of ships emerged from hyperspace, blocking out the stars. They came not to negotiate or conquer, but to destroy. High Counselor Velk had convinced his species that humanity was a disease that needed to be cut out before it infected the rest of the galaxy. If the Council will not act with strength, Velk had told his people, then we will act alone. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy order. The bombardment began without warning. Plasma beams rained down on Earth's cities, turning buildings into ash and glass into vapor. The defensive shields that Suman had built using captured technology held for minutes, then failed under the relentless assault. Within an hour, 3 major cities were burning. In the command center, Jiwoo watched the casualty reports climb into the millions. Her hands shook as she authorized evacuation protocols that she knew would save only a fraction of her people. This was not war. This was extermination. Then something unexpected happened. New ships appeared on the sensors, but they weren't hostile. 5 different alien fleets had arrived, positioning themselves between Earth and the insectoid armada. The Thorians came first, their crystalline ships beautiful and deadly. Then the Draken, their warships bristling with weapons. The aquatic Nalsi arrived in ships filled with water, their technology strange and powerful. 2 other species joined them, ones Earth had never dealt with directly. A communication came through to Jiwoo's command center. It was the Thorian ambassador, its crystalline form glowing with determination. We stand with Earth, the Thorian said, not because we love humans, but because we cannot allow one species to unilaterally destroy another. The Council's laws are clear. If the insectoids can ignore those laws today, they can ignore them tomorrow when it is our worlds at stake. Jiwoo wanted to thank them, but there was no time. The battle had begun. Space above Earth became a nightmare of fire and death. Ships from 7 different species clashed in orbital battles that lit up the night sky. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers and debris rained down through the atmosphere. Sora led Earth's hybrid fighter squadrons into the chaos. Her neural link to her craft made her faster than any normal pilot. But the insectoid ships outnumbered them 50-1. For every enemy ship she destroyed, 2 more took its place. They're too many, one of her pilots called out. We can't hold them. We don't have to hold them forever, Sora replied, dodging plasma fire. Just long enough. On the ground, Doyen was fighting a different battle. Insectoid soldiers were landing in Korea, Japan, and China, trying to establish ground positions. But they weren't prepared for the defense they encountered. The humans had learned from every battle. They knew the aliens' tactics, their weaknesses, their predictable responses. Doyen's forces hit them with everything: mines, ambushes, chemical weapons, biological agents, and pure human rage. They want to kill us all? Doyen shouted to his troops as they fought in the ruins of Seoul. Then we make them pay for every meter. We make them remember that humans don't die easily. In her laboratory, now relocated to an underground bunker, Suman was working on something desperate. She had discovered that the insectoid fleet was actually a single organism, connected through biological signals. Every ship, every soldier, was part of one massive hive mind controlled by a queen somewhere in their home system. If we can kill the queen, Suman explained to Jiwoo, the entire fleet will collapse. They'll be like bodies without a brain. Where is the queen? Jiwoo asked. That's the problem, Suman said grimly. She's in the Velthora system 300 light-years away. It would take days to get there even with our FTL drive, and by then Earth will be dead. Professor Taehyun, who had been working alongside Suman, spoke up. What if we don't travel there? What if we send a signal instead? A weapon that travels at the speed of light, aimed directly at the Queen's location. What kind of signal could kill a living creature? Yunyo asked. Taehyun smiled grimly. A very loud one. The insectoids communicate through quantum entanglement. If we create a surge of quantum noise on the right frequency, it would be like screaming directly into the Queen's brain. It might not kill her, but it could stun her long enough for us to act. It was a desperate plan, requiring technology they barely understood, and power levels that might destroy the transmitter after a single use. But it was all they had. Suman started building the weapon while the battle raged overhead. She worked for 36 hours straight, fueled by stimulants and desperation. Around her, the bunker shook as insectoid bombs hit the surface. Meanwhile, Jiwoo made an impossible decision. To power Suman's weapon, they needed an enormous energy source. The only thing available was Earth's planetary defense grid, the same shields protecting their cities from orbital bombardment. If we divert power to the weapon, the shields will fail, General Taman warned. Millions will die in the bombardment. If we don't fire the weapon, billions will die, Jiwoo said quietly. Do it, the shields dropped. Insectoid warships immediately took advantage, pouring fire onto unprotected cities. The death toll spiked horrifically, but Suman's weapon was charging. In orbit, Sora saw the shields fail and understood what was happening. All fighters to me, she called. We need to buy them time. What followed was the most desperate battle humanity had ever fought. 50 hybrid fighters against thousands of enemy ships. They fought with everything they had, using suicidal tactics and impossible maneuvers. They died in their dozens, but they bought precious minutes. On the ground, Doyen's forces did the same. They charged enemy positions that should have been impregnable. They detonated explosives with themselves inside the blast radius. They gave their lives knowing that somewhere, Dr. Suman was working to save everyone else. Yoonji fell during one such assault, taking out an enemy command post. Doyen found her body later and something inside him broke. But there was no time for grief. He picked up her weapon and kept fighting. Finally, after what felt like forever, Suman's weapon was ready. Firing now, she said, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. The quantum pulse erupted from Earth, invisible but unstoppable. It crossed 300 light-years instantly, focused on a single point in space where the Queen resided. In the Velthora system, the Queen felt agony unlike anything her species had ever experienced. The quantum noise tore through her consciousness like fire. She couldn't think, couldn't coordinate, couldn't control her fleet. Above Earth, every insectoid ship suddenly went silent. The coordinated attacks fell apart. Ships drifted aimlessly or collided with each other. Ground troops stopped mid-battle, confused and directionless. It worked. Jimin shouted from his fighter. They're disabled. But the victory was short-lived. Suman's weapon had burned itself out, and her face was grim. The Queen is stunned, not dead. We have maybe an hour before she recovers. If we want to end this permanently, someone needs to go to Velthora and finish the job. That's impossible, Taman said. Even with our FTL drive, it's too far. Not impossible, Jimin said quietly. Just very, very dangerous. I can take the Phoenix on a long jump. Maximum power, maximum speed. The drive will probably tear itself apart on the return trip, but I can get there. You'll be alone, Jiwoo warned. We can't send backup that far. Then I go alone, Jimin said. They loaded the Phoenix with every weapon they could fit. Nuclear warheads, plasma torpedoes, and an experimental gravity bomb that Suman had designed. Jimin checked his equipment one last time, knowing he probably wouldn't return. Doyun came to see him off, still covered in blood and ash from the ground battles. Make it count, the soldier said simply. The Phoenix jumped, tearing through space-time in a way that violated every safety protocol. Jimin felt reality twist around him, felt the ship shuddering as if it might fly apart. But he held course, thinking of Yoonji, of Minho, of all the humans who had died fighting for their freedom. He emerged in the Velthora system to find a nightmare. The insectoid homeworld was a massive hive, organic and metallic fused together, and at its center he could sense the Queen, still stunned but recovering. Jimin armed every weapon and flew straight at her. Defensive systems tried to stop him, but they were slow without the Queen's coordination. He dodged and weaved through fire that should have killed him, the neural link pushing his reflexes beyond human limits. He crashed through the hive's outer layers, penetrating deep into its structure, and there, in a chamber that pulsed with biological energy, he found the Queen. She was vast, ancient, and filled with hate. You cannot win, she projected into his mind. Kill me and my species will hunt yours across the galaxy. You will never know peace. Then we'll never know peace, Jimin said, and detonated everything at once. The explosion destroyed the hive's core. The Queen died instantly. Her consciousness scattered across quantum space, and with her death, every insectoid ship in the galaxy went dark. The Phoenix, as predicted, did not survive the blast. Neither did Jimin. But his final transmission reached Earth, just 4 words. It is finished, win. Above Earth, the Allied fleets finished off the disabled insectoid ships. The battle was over. The cost had been terrible. Over 1 billion humans dead, 5 major cities destroyed, millions more injured or displaced, but they had survived. Sora looked at the sky where Grath's fleet had been. No, she said. We did it. All of every species wanted to enslave Earth. Now they're on their knees part. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so chaotic. Representatives from 17 species argued with a volume and intensity that would have been unthinkable just weeks before. The humans had destroyed Warlord Grath. The impossible had become real and nobody knew what to do about it. The crystalline Thorians were the first to break ranks. Their representative, a being of living crystal that refracted light into rainbow patterns, spoke in harmonics that the translation system rendered as careful, measured words. We must reconsider our position, the Thorian said. These humans have proven themselves capable of defending their world. By our own ancient laws, species that can resist conquest earn the right to negotiate. High Counselor Velk slammed multiple appendages on the council table. Unacceptable. They are primitives who got lucky. We cannot allow this precedent. If one species can defy us, others will follow. But the unity was broken. 5 species quietly began signaling their support for negotiations. 7 remained committed to conquest. The remaining 5 were undecided, waiting to see which way the political winds would blow. On Earth, President Jiwoo faced her own political crisis. The victory had bought them time, but it had not brought peace. 3 different alien species had sent secret diplomatic messages. Each offered technology, trade, and protection. Each wanted something in return. The most aggressive offer came from a species called the Draken. They were reptilian, warlike, and ambitious. Their ambassador, a scarred warrior named Krill, met with Jiwoo in a secret location. "Your species impresses me," Krill said in a hissing voice. "You fight with creativity and courage. These are qualities my people value. Join us. We will give you weapons, ships, and knowledge. Together we can challenge the Council's dominance." "And what do you want in return?" Jiwoo asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Soldiers," Krill said simply. "We have enemies. Rivals who seek to limit our expansion. We need troops who think differently, fight differently. We need humans." Jiwoo's military advisors were split. General Taemin argued that they needed allies and technology desperately. Without help, Earth would eventually face another invasion, and next time they might not be so fortunate. But others, including Doyun, were suspicious. "They want to use us as mercenaries," he said bluntly. "Today it's fighting their enemies. Tomorrow it's conquering innocent worlds. We didn't fight for freedom just to become someone else's attack dogs." The debate raged through Earth's government. Meanwhile, Hyejin uncovered something disturbing. Someone within Earth's leadership was sending classified information to the insectoid forces. The traitor was careful, routing messages through multiple channels. But Hyejin was better. She traced the leak to Vice President Hansel Bay. When she brought the evidence to Jiwoo, the president felt her heart sink. Hansel had been her mentor, the man who had guided her political career, but the data was clear. "Why would he betray us?" Jiwoo asked, though part of her already understood. "Fear," Hyejin said. "I accessed his personal logs. He believes we can't win in the long term. He's been negotiating a surrender, trying to secure the best possible terms for humanity's enslavement. He thinks serving the aliens is better than dying." Jiwoo ordered Hansel's arrest, but he was ready. The vice president had his own supporters, people who shared his belief that resistance was futile. They attempted a coup, trying to seize control of the government and force a surrender. The fighting was brief but brutal. Loyal security forces confronted the conspirators in the halls of government. Hansel himself tried to escape, stealing a shuttle and heading for the alien fleet still in orbit. Doyun led the team that intercepted him. The vice president was older, weaker, but desperate. "You're making a mistake," Hansel shouted as they dragged him from the shuttle. "We can't beat them all. Better to surrender with dignity than to die with pride." "We're not dying," Doyun said coldly. "And we're not surrendering. We're surviving, which is something you've forgotten how to do." But the damage was done. The Thorians, who had been preparing to formally propose peace negotiations, withdrew their offer. If Earth's own leaders couldn't agree on resistance, how could the Thorians trust them as partners? In her laboratory, Suman was working on something that might change the equation entirely. She had been studying the alien FTL drives for weeks, taking apart their fundamental principles and rebuilding them with human engineering. "It's inefficient," she told her team. "The alien drives are safe and reliable, but they're slow. They follow strict rules about how space-time can be manipulated." "But what if we break those rules?" Her assistant Junho looked worried. Break the rules of physics? That sounds dangerous. Everything humans do is dangerous, Suman said with a tired smile. But it works. She had built a prototype, a human-designed FTL drive that ignored alien safety protocols. It was unstable, prone to failure, and had a 30% chance of killing everyone on board during a jump. But it could move a ship across the galaxy in hours instead of days. When Suman presented her design to Jiwoo, the president understood immediately. If we have FTL capability, we're not a primitive species anymore. The aliens' legal justification for invasion disappears. Exactly, Suman confirmed. But more than that, it proves we can innovate. We're not just copying their technology. We're improving it, making it our own. They needed a test flight, something public that would demonstrate humanity's new capabilities. The obvious choice was Captain Minho, but he had died destroying the alien cruisers. The mantle fell to his former second-in-command, a pilot named Jimin, who had survived the Mars evacuation. I know the drive is dangerous, Jimin said when they asked him. I know I might not come back. But Captain Minho would have done it without hesitation. So will I. The test flight was scheduled for maximum publicity. Earth's remaining satellites would broadcast the jump, and messages would be sent to all alien fleets in the solar system. Humanity was making a statement. Jimin sat in the cockpit of the experimental ship, feeling the unfamiliar hum of the human FTL drive. Suman had named it the Phoenix because humanity had risen from the ashes of destruction. All systems green, Jimin reported, beginning jump sequence. The Phoenix folded space in a way that made alien sensors scream warnings. This wasn't the careful, controlled jump of Council technology. This was violent, aggressive, tearing a hole in reality through pure force. The ship vanished from Earth orbit and reappeared at Alpha Centauri in 43 minutes. Then it jumped back. The round trip took less than 2 hours, a journey that would have required days with alien technology. When Jimin climbed out of the cockpit, alive and grinning, Suman allowed herself a moment of pure joy. They had done it. Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel on their own terms. But Jimin's expression turned serious. I saw something out there, he said. At Alpha Centauri. There were ships, not council ships. Something older, bigger. They scanned the Phoenix, then vanished. I think we got someone else's attention. Jiwoo immediately convened an emergency meeting. If there were unknown forces beyond the council, Earth needed to know about them. She reached out to all the alien factions that had contacted her, asking for information. Only the Thorians responded honestly. Their ambassador's crystalline form seemed dimmer than usual, as if afraid. You speak of the Eternal Directorate, the Thorian said. They are the Ancient Ones, the species that created the Galactic Council 10,000 years ago. They do not involve themselves in ordinary affairs. But if they have taken notice of you, then everything has changed. Are they hostile? Jiwoo asked. They are absolute, the Thorian replied. They created the Council to maintain order in the galaxy. Order, stability, predictability. Humanity represents chaos. If the Directorate decides you are a threat to their vision of order, they will not send fleets to conquer you. They will send fleets to erase you. That night, Jiwoo barely slept. Earth had won battles, but the war was growing more complex. The Drakons still pushed for alliance. The insectoid forces still wanted conquest. The Thorians offered cautious friendship. And now, lurking in the background, ancient powers were stirring. She called for a vote among Earth's nations. The question was simple but profound. Should humanity integrate into the galactic community, accepting its rules and restrictions? Or should they remain independent, facing all threats alone? The debate lasted for days. Some argued that survival required compromise. Others insisted that freedom was worth any cost. In the end, the vote was close, but the result was clear. Earth would stand alone. When Jiwoo announced the decision, she could see the mixed reactions from the alien ambassadors watching. Some showed respect, others showed contempt, and a few showed fear, because humanity had made a statement that echoed across the galaxy. We will not kneel, we will not surrender, and we will not accept your rules. We are human, and we make our own path. In the depths of space, the Eternal Directorate received reports of humanity's decision. Ancient beings, old beyond measure, began to stir. A debate began that would determine the fate of not just Earth, but potentially the entire galactic order. One question dominated their discussions. Should this chaos be eliminated before it spreads? Oh, every species wanted to enslave Earth. Now they're on their knees. Part 3. Dr. Suman Lee stood in her laboratory, surrounded by pieces of captured alien technology. She had 48 hours to solve a puzzle that should have taken decades. Outside, the world waited for Warlord Grath's arrival. Inside, Suman was making a discovery that would change everything. "It doesn't make sense," she muttered, connecting sensors to an alien pilot's helmet. "Their neural interface should be incompatible with human brain patterns. The architecture is completely different." Her assistant, a young engineer named Junho, looked over her shoulder. "Maybe that's why it's not working." "No," Suman said slowly. "It is working. That's the problem. It shouldn't work, but it does. The helmet is adapting to my neural patterns, not the other way around." She put on the helmet and closed her eyes. Immediately, information flooded her consciousness. She could sense the alien fighter craft in the hangar bay below. She could feel its systems, understand its controls, almost taste the power flowing through its engines. But more than that, she could improve it. Her mind automatically found inefficiencies in the design, better ways to route power, faster reaction sequences. The alien technology was sophisticated, but it was rigid. It did exactly what it was programmed to do and nothing more. A human mind, Suman realized, was different. Humans were pattern makers. They saw connections where none existed and found solutions that broke the rules. The alien technology had been designed by minds that thought in straight lines. Human minds thought in spirals, loops, and creative chaos. "Get President Park on the line," Suman said, pulling off the helmet with shaking hands. "I know how we can win." 2 hours later, Jiwoo stood in front of a group of volunteers in a secure military facility. These were pilots, race car drivers, gamers, anyone with fast reflexes and adaptable thinking. Suman had explained her theory, and Jiwoo had authorized immediate testing. "I won't lie to you," Jiwoo said to the assembled volunteers. "This is experimental. The neural link might not work. It might hurt. It might cause permanent damage. But if it works, you'll be flying alien fighters better than the aliens themselves." A young woman stepped forward. Sora Han had been a racing pilot before the invasion, one of the best in the world. She had lost her family when the aliens bombed Busan. Now she had a chance for revenge. "I'll do it," Sora said simply. The first test was a disaster. The neural feedback was too strong and Sora passed out within seconds. But Suman adjusted the settings, added buffer systems, refined the interface. On the third try, something clicked. Sora sat in the alien fighter's cockpit, the neural helmet on her head, and suddenly she was more than human. She could feel every system, every weapon, every sensor. The craft responded to her thoughts faster than any mechanical control could manage. "How do you feel?" Suman asked over the radio. Sora's laugh was wild and free. "I feel like a god. Launch me. Let me show you what I can do." The alien fighter screamed out of the hangar and into the sky. Sora pushed it through maneuvers that would have killed a human pilot in a normal craft. The neural link compensated for the G-forces, keeping her conscious while the fighter twisted and turned in ways that should have been impossible. "She's exceeding the craft's rated performance by 30%, Junho reported, watching the telemetry in awe. "The fighter is actually adapting to her piloting style." Within hours, 50 volunteers had been fitted with neural helmets. Within a day, Earth had its first squadron of hybrid human-alien fighters. They weren't just using the alien technology. They were making it better. Meanwhile, Doyun was on a different mission. Intelligence had located an alien research facility in the mountains of Tibet. The aliens had captured Professor Tae Hyun-yoon, one of Earth's leading experts on alien biology. If anyone could find a weakness in the alien forces, it would be him. "This is going to be ugly," Doyun told his team as they prepared for insertion. "The facility is heavily guarded. We'll be outnumbered 20-1. Yoonji checked her weapons. Those are better odds than yesterday." The insertion was done at night using captured alien stealth technology that Hyejin had managed to crack. They landed on the facility's roof and cut their way inside. The alien guards never saw them coming. Doyun moved through the facility like a ghost. The aliens had sensors, cameras, and automated defenses, but they had designed them to detect other aliens. They had never considered that humans might infiltrate their secure installations. It was, Doyun thought grimly, a fatal oversight. They found Tae-hyun in a laboratory surrounded by alien guards. The professor looked thin and exhausted, but his eyes were bright with excitement. Took you long enough, Taehyun said as Doyeon shot the last guard. I've learned something important. The aliens, all 17 species, they're part of a caste system. Rigid hierarchies where everyone knows their place. Independent thought is discouraged. Innovation is rare, so? Hyunji asked, covering the door. So they've forgotten how to adapt, Taehyun explained rapidly as they moved toward extraction. They follow doctrine. They obey orders. They never improvise. That's why our guerrilla tactics work so well. They literally cannot predict what we'll do next because we don't even know what we'll do next. As they fought their way back to the roof, Taehyun kept talking, his scientific mind racing. The Galactic Council maintains control through technology and tradition, but they haven't faced a real challenge in thousands of years. They've become complacent, soft. We're the first species in millennia that's actually fought back effectively. The extraction was barely successful. They lost 3 team members and Doyeon took a plasma burn to his shoulder. But they got Taehyun out, along with terabytes of data from the alien computers. As Grath's deadline approached, all of Earth's desperate preparations came together. Sora led the hybrid fighter squadron. Heejin's virus was embedded in every alien system they could reach. Doyeon's teams were in position for coordinated strikes. And Suman had one more surprise. I've analyzed the energy signatures of their fleet, she told Jiwoo. Grath's flagship, the one carrying the planet killer weapon, has a vulnerability. The power core has to drop shields for 3 seconds during the firing sequence. It's a tiny window, but if someone could get close enough, it's a suicide mission, Jiwoo said quietly. Most of our successful missions have been, Suman replied. When Grath's hammer fleet arrived, it was everything the intelligence reports had promised and worse. 500 warships, each one capable of destroying a city. And at the center, Grath's flagship, a massive vessel bristling with weapons. The warlord's message was broadcast to all of Earth. I am here. Your time is over. Watch as I end your world. The flagship's planet-killer weapon began charging. Energy readings spiked to levels that made Earth scientists weep in despair. In 5 minutes, the weapon would fire. In 6 minutes, Earth would be dead. Then Sora's voice came over the command channel. All fighters, this is Lead, you know the plan. We've got one shot at this. Let's make it count. 50 hybrid fighters launched from hidden bases around the world. The alien fleet detected them immediately and dispatched interceptors. What followed was the most intense space battle Earth had ever seen. The alien pilots were skilled and experienced. But Sora and her squadron were something new. They flew in patterns that made no tactical sense, using maneuvers that violated standard doctrine, taking risks that no rational being would attempt. And it worked. The neural link allowed them to react faster, adapt quicker, and coordinate without traditional communications. They were individuals acting as a collective, each pilot bringing their own creativity to the fight. Sora pushed through the enemy lines, taking damage but never stopping. Her fighters screamed toward Grath's flagship as the planet-killer weapon reached full charge. Around her, her squadron fought and died to give her this chance. On the flagship's bridge, Grath watched the approaching fighter with contempt. One small craft thinks to challenge me? Destroy it. But Sora was already inside the defensive perimeter. She could feel the flagship's systems through her neural link, sense the power building in the planet killer. And there, just as Suman had predicted, the shields flickered as the weapon prepared to fire. 3 seconds. That was all she had. Sora fired every weapon her fighter had, pouring all her rage and grief into that single moment. Missiles, plasma bolts, and kinetic rounds slammed into the flagship's exposed power core. The explosion was spectacular. The flagship's core went critical, triggering a chain reaction that tore the massive vessel apart from the inside. Grath died still not believing that a primitive human had defeated him. Without their flagship and their warlord, the Hammer fleet fell into confusion. Some ships tried to continue the attack, but Hyejin's virus kicked in at that moment, causing weapons to malfunction and shields to fail. Other ships retreated, unwilling to risk their lives without clear leadership. On Earth, people watched in stunned silence as the alien fleet broke apart and fled. They had won. Against impossible odds, with primitive technology and desperate tactics, humanity had defeated the greatest military force in the galaxy. Sora's fighter limped back to Earth, barely functional. As she climbed out of the cockpit exhausted and burned, Jiwoo was there to meet her. You did it. The president said softly. You saved us all. Every species wanted to enslave Earth. Now they're on their knees part. Two, the aliens landed expecting organized military resistance. Instead, they found chaos. In Seoul, the first wave of alien soldiers marched down the main streets in perfect formation, their armor gleaming, their weapons ready. They were tall creatures with 4 arms and thick, scaled skin. Their tactical displays showed no military presence in the area. The humans had fled, or so they thought. Then the explosions started. They came from everywhere at once. The building to their left erupted in flames. The street beneath their feet collapsed, dropping a dozen soldiers into the subway system below. Sniper fire came from windows, rooftops, and hidden positions the alien sensors couldn't detect. Doyen watched through binoculars from 3 blocks away, a grim smile on his face. Rule 1 of fighting humans, he said to Yunji beside him. We don't fight fair. The aliens tried to adapt. They called in air support, sent drones to scan the buildings, establish secure perimeters. But the humans didn't stay in one place. They hit and ran, striking from unexpected angles and vanishing before the aliens could respond. They're not military, one alien commander reported back to his ship. They're civilians with guns, old weapons, primitive explosives, but there are millions of them, and they don't fight with any recognizable tactics. What the alien didn't understand was that humanity had been fighting wars for thousands of years. Every culture on Earth had developed its own way of combat. Guerrilla warfare, urban combat, psychological operations, terrorism, resistance movements. The aliens had military doctrine. Humans had survival instinct. In the underground bunker, Jiwoo met with her military advisors. The news was not good. We're losing every direct engagement, General Taman reported. Their armor is too strong, their weapons too powerful. When we face them head-on, we die. Then we don't face them head-on, Jiwoo said firmly. We make them fight on our terms, not theirs. What about the virus program? A young woman stepped forward. Hyejin Nam was only 24, but she was the best hacker in the United Earth government. She had spent the last 70 hours working without sleep. I've analyzed the captured alien equipment, Hyejin said, her eyes red with exhaustion. All 17 species use connected technology. Their ships, weapons, armor, even their communication devices all linked to shared networks. I think I can exploit that. Can you shut them down? Jiwoo asked. Better, Hyejin said with a tired smile. I can make them malfunction. Their weapons will fire at random targets. Their shields will turn on and off unpredictably. Their sensors will show false readings. It won't destroy them, but it will drive them crazy. Do it, Jiwoo ordered. While Hyejin worked her electronic magic, Minho was fighting a different kind of battle. His transport ships from Mars had made it past the alien blockade, but only because the aliens hadn't considered mining vessels a threat. That was a mistake. Remember, Minho told his crew, these ships aren't built for combat. But neither were the planes on September 11th. Sometimes the best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't see coming. They had loaded the mining ships with every nuclear device Earth's remaining space stations could spare. The plan was simple and suicidal. Get close to the alien capital ships and detonate everything at once. This is a one-way trip, Minho said calmly. Anyone who wants to take an escape pod back to Earth, do it now. No judgment, nobody moved. Good, Minho said. Then let's show these aliens what happens when you threaten our home. The mining ships approached the alien fleet, broadcasting distress signals, claiming engine failure. The aliens, confident in their superiority, allowed them to drift closer. They were analyzing the primitive human vessels, collecting data for their archives. Then Minho gave the order. All ships execute now. The nuclear explosions lit up space like new suns. 3 alien cruisers were destroyed instantly. 2 more were crippled, leaking atmosphere and spinning out of control. The blast was so powerful that it knocked out sensors across the entire fleet. Minho and his crew didn't survive. But they had proven something important. Humans could hurt the invaders. On the alien command ship, High Counselor Velk watched the destruction with something close to shock. In 10,000 years of conquest, no primitive species had ever inflicted such damage on the galactic fleet. How did this happen? Velk demanded. They used suicide tactics, his tactical officer reported. They sacrificed themselves deliberately. Our protocols have no defense against such illogical behavior. Then update the protocols, Velk snapped, and send a message to the homeworld. Request Warlord Grath and the Hammer Fleet. These humans need to be taught their place. Back on Earth, the war ground on. The aliens held the major cities, but the countryside belonged to the humans. Supply convoys were ambushed. Communication outposts were destroyed. Alien soldiers started disappearing in the night, taken by resistance fighters who learned to move silently through territory they had known their whole lives. The psychological impact was devastating. The aliens were used to defeated enemies who surrendered once their military was crushed. But humans didn't surrender. Every soldier killed seemed to inspire 10 more fighters. Every city bombed created 1,000 new resistance members. They fight like they have nothing to lose, one alien soldier reported. Even their young and old attack us. Don't they value their own lives? What the aliens didn't understand was that humans did value their lives. They valued them so much that they would rather die free than live as slaves. It was a concept completely foreign to species that had spent millennia in rigid hierarchies, following orders without question. Then Huygens virus went live. It spread through the alien networks like wildfire. At first, the effects were small. A weapon would fire a meter off target. A shield would flicker for a second. But as the virus replicated and evolved, the chaos grew. In Mumbai, an entire alien battalion found their weapons locked. In Cairo, alien aircraft crashed when their navigation systems failed. In Tokyo, alien soldiers watched in horror as their armor's environmental controls shut down, leaving them gasping in Earth's atmosphere that their species couldn't breathe naturally. The aliens tried to shut down their networks, but that left them blind and unable to coordinate. They tried to isolate infected systems, but the virus had already spread too far. For a species that relied on technology for everything, it was a nightmare. I don't understand, Velk said, watching his tactical displays fill with error messages. How can a primitive species hack our systems? We've had quantum computing for millennia. Their most advanced technology is barely past silicon chips. His science officer had no answer. The truth was simpler than they realized. Hyejin wasn't better than their programmers. But she was creative in ways they had forgotten how to be. Their systems were powerful but predictable. Huygens virus was crude but unpredictable. In the digital battlefield, unpredictability was a weapon. As the alien invasion force fell into disarray, Jiwoo made her move. She broadcast a message to all alien forces. "You came here to enslave us," she said. "You thought we were weak because our technology was primitive. You were wrong. We are strong because we refuse to give up. We are dangerous because we fight with everything we have. You can still leave. Go back to your Galactic Council and tell them Earth is not for sale. Tell them humanity does not kneel." The response came not from Velk but from a new voice, deep, powerful, and utterly confident. "I am Warlord Grath," the voice said. "I have crushed 100 rebellions. I have burned 1,000 worlds. Your resistance is impressive, but it ends now. I am bringing the Hammer Fleet. We will not occupy your planet. We will not enslave your species. We will crack your world like an egg and scatter your remains across space as a warning to others who dare defy the Galactic Council. You have 48 hours before I arrive. Spend them saying goodbye." The transmission ended. In the bunker, Jiwoo's advisors looked at her with fear. The Hammer Fleet was legendary. Grath had never lost a battle, but Jiwoo was not afraid. She was angry. 48 hours, she said quietly. "Then we show this warlord what happens when you push humans too far. Get me Dr. Suman Lee. It's time to see if her theories work in practice." Across Earth, humanity prepared for its final stand. They had already lost millions. Their cities were in ruins. Their fleets were destroyed. But they were not defeated, because humans, as the aliens were learning, did not know how to quit. Every species wanted to enslave Earth. Now they're on their knees part. The red dust of Mars swirled outside the mining station windows as Captain Minho Kang reviewed the daily reports. He had been running this operation for 3 years now, and every day felt the same. Dig, process, ship. Dig, process, ship. The routine was boring, but it paid well enough to support his family back on Earth. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said his communications officer, breaking the monotony. Minho looked up from his tablet, frowning. "Strange how?" he asked. "Energy signatures, big ones, coming from outside the solar system." The officer's voice held a tremor of fear that made Minho's stomach drop. Within minutes, the entire crew crowded around the sensor displays. What they saw made no sense. 17 massive objects had appeared near Earth, each one larger than any ship humanity had ever built. They hadn't traveled there. They had simply appeared, as if reality itself had torn open to let them through. Minho grabbed the communications console. "Get me Earth Command. Now." Back on Earth, President Ji-woo Park was in a budget meeting when her security chief burst through the door. The look on his face told her everything she needed to know. Something terrible had happened. "Madam President, we have a situation," he said, his voice tight with tension. 10 minutes later, Ji-woo stood in the situation room, staring at the holographic display showing 17 alien vessels surrounding her planet. Each ship was different in design, suggesting they came from different species. But they had all arrived together, which meant they were coordinated. "Have they tried to communicate?" Ji-woo asked, keeping her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "Not yet, ma'am. They're just sitting there, watching." Then all at once, every screen on Earth flickered to life. Television sets, computer monitors, phones, even the advertising displays in city squares, all showed the same image, a council chamber filled with alien beings. The creature that spoke first looked like a massive insect, its compound eyes gleaming with an unsettling intelligence. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English, translated by technology humanity could only dream of possessing. "People of Earth," it said, its voice like grinding metal. "I am High Counselor Velk of the Galactic Council. Your planet has been discovered, evaluated, and categorized. According to the ancient laws that govern civilized space, any species that has not achieved faster than light travel has no claim to sovereignty. Your planet is rich in resources. Your species shows potential as a labor force. You have 72 hours to surrender peacefully, or we will pacify your world by force." The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun. For a moment, Earth stood in stunned silence. Then the panic began. Ji-woo spent the next hour on emergency calls with world leaders. The United Earth government had only been formed 20 years ago, and it had never faced a crisis like this. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight. Most were simply terrified. "We have to try negotiating," Ji-woo insisted. "Maybe we can make them understand that we're not primitives. We have rights." She sent diplomatic messages every hour. The aliens ignored them all. On Mars, Minho was already preparing his crew for the worst. "Start loading everything we have onto the transport ships," he ordered. "Food, water, fuel, equipment. If Earth is going to fight, they'll need supplies. Captain, those alien ships could destroy us the moment we launch," his first officer protested. "Then we die trying to help." Minho said simply, "I'm not leaving my family down there to face this alone." Meanwhile, in a military bunker beneath the Korean mountains, Commander Doyeon Choi was gathering his special operations teams. Doyeon was a warrior, trained in every form of combat humanity had developed. He had fought in the resource wars, survived the Antarctic crisis, and earned more medals than he could count. But he had never faced aliens before. "Listen up," he told his assembled soldiers. "We don't know what's coming. We don't know if our weapons will even work against them. But I know one thing. Humans don't give up. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We'll survive this too." His second-in-command, a tough woman named Yoon-ji Shin, raised her hand. "Sir, what if their technology is too advanced? What if we can't win?" Doyen looked at her steadily. "Then we make them regret ever coming here." At the Korean Institute of Advanced Science, Dr. Soo-min Lee was having a breakthrough. She had been working on experimental propulsion systems for years, making slow progress. But the energy signatures from the alien ships had given her new data to work with. She could see patterns in how they moved, how they generated power. It was technology far beyond Earth's capabilities, but she was beginning to understand the basic principles. "If I'm right," she muttered to herself, staring at equations covering 3 monitors. "Their ships create tiny holes in space-time. That's how they appeared so suddenly. They're not traveling faster than light. They're folding space itself." Her assistant looked over her shoulder. "Can we do that?" "Not yet," Soo-min admitted. "But maybe we can figure out how to disrupt it. If we can stop them from reinforcing their fleet, we might have a chance." As the 72-hour deadline approached, Ji-woo made one final attempt at communication. She broadcast a message directly to the alien fleet, speaking not as a president but as one living being to another. "We are human," she said, looking directly into the camera. "We think, we feel, we dream. We have art, music, literature, science. We have families we love and futures we hope for. We are not resources to be exploited or slaves to be commanded. If you attack us, we will defend ourselves. We may not have your technology, but we have something more important. We have the will to be free. Please reconsider this path. Let us find a peaceful solution. The response came an hour later. It was not from the insect-like Velk, but from a different alien, this one crystalline and geometric in form. Your passion is noted, it said in a voice like wind chimes. But passion does not grant rights. The law is clear. You will surrender or you will be pacified. There is no third option. Jiwoo felt something harden inside her. She had tried peace. She had tried reason. Now there was only one path left. She activated the military command network. All forces, this is the president. We are now at war. Defend your positions, protect your people, and show these invaders that Earth does not kneel. In orbit, the alien ships began to move, taking up positions over major cities. Dropships launched, carrying invasion forces toward the surface. The aliens expected an easy victory. They had conquered hundreds of worlds using these same tactics. They had never encountered humans before. As the first alien soldiers landed in Seoul, New York, London, and Mumbai, they found cities that had not evacuated. Instead, they found populations that had armed themselves with whatever weapons they could find. Doyen's Special Forces teams were already in position, waiting in ambush. Minho's transport ships launched from Mars, racing toward Earth despite the alien blockade. Suman worked frantically in her laboratory, trying to turn theory into weapons. Jiwoo coordinated the defense from her bunker, making impossible decisions about which cities to defend and which to sacrifice. The first shots of the war echoed across Earth. The aliens had superior technology, better weapons, and thousands of years of military experience. But they were about to learn an important lesson. Humans fight dirty. And when humans fight for their homes, their families, and their freedom, they don't fight to win, they fight to survive. And survival, as the aliens would soon discover, was something humans were very, very good at. The 72 hours had expired. The war for Earth had begun.